Alright, this is James, and welcome to today's video. So, I hope everyone's doing well. We're back in here in Grim Dawn. As promised, I wanted to contribute a little bit more of a video to my character's progression. So yeah, right now we are still in Elite, about to go into Ultimate, and I figured now is as good as time as any to go over some of the changes that I've made to my character since the last video. So, kind of in the same vein as the last video, I want to go in a similar order. Things should be a bit faster, now that I've got most of my explanations out of the way. In general, the character's been performing okay. Still having some issues with single target damage that I hope maybe I've remedied a bit with some of the more recent changes I've made. Everything else is operating about the same though. So starting out with skills, what I ended up doing was just investing a lot more into Firestrike and its other supplemental abilities. So I put a bunch of points into Static Strike. Um, I've invested heavily into getting Static Strike leveled up past the soft cap. Other than that, I still haven't touched some of these other abilities. I don't remember if Flame Touch was maxed out last time I made a video, but it is now. I considered putting a point into Flashbang just for the chance to confuse enemies to increase my survivability. And I have plenty of points left, like plenty of levels left to go, so I may still end up doing that. I just haven't decided yet. In Inquisitor, not much has changed here. I have ranged expertise maxed out. I put some more points into Deadly Aim. And I experimented with putting points into Steel Resolve. And I had this maxed out at the soft cap. And it was actually providing me a decent damage boost. I just unspec'd it in favor of Static Strike, and it ended up increasing my DPS more. That being said, I think I'm going to go back and put more points into this again, because that window of increased damage was pretty nice. As for devotions, not a ton has changed here. I've run out of points basically. I have one more point to put in that I haven't really decided where to put it yet. I spec'd into Elemental Storm, and I think that's been doing some decent damage. Some of the adjacent points have been kind of useful. I have Empty Throne and Sailor's Guide here for some CC immunity. I put points into Quill, I think, because I wanted some extra health and energy and just for the constellation bonus. Um, and I think everything else is about the same as it was before. I did unspec out of Fiend, and I ended up unspecking out of Viper, in favor of going the route with some of these other devotions instead. And I am having an energy issue, so I wish that I had, you know, I might put like 1 point into something. I might have to find something that gives me some more energy or energy regen and just put a single point into there. So this is still very much a work in progress. So unlike last time, probably one of the most exciting changes that I've made this time around has been with my gear. I've made a bunch of changes. I've learned some things. So basically, all I did was I went onto the Grim Dawn item database and I looked up, um, you know, gear that had modifiers to Fire Strike, because I figured I want to kind of pump my main damaging ability and just see where that leads me. So I kind of found some gear that seemed to do that pretty well. So to start out with, there are some rares that I've got. So I have this. I've been wearing this for a while. This Monster and Frequent Incendiary Cask gives a lot of good stats to Fire Strike. So this was probably one of the first Fire Strike related pieces of gear that I started wearing, and it's been pretty good this whole time. No augments on it quite yet, but I'll probably put some on, at some point. Then these Arcane Spalders are from the Coven of Ugnenbog, and they give a +2 to Fire Strike along with some fire damage and offensive ability and Aether resistance and stuff. So these seem like a pretty good deal for the time being. And they have a level 90 variant, I believe, so probably near the time I'm done with Ultimate, maybe a little bit past when I've finished the campaign. I'll probably go and get those unless I find something better. And then there were 3 epics that I found that were faction epics. So the first one is Sapphire of Elemental Balance. This ring gives a +2 to Fire Strike, some armor, and some damage. And then it also has the set bonus that is complemented by this ring, the Ruby of Elemental Balance. Both of these you can, I believe you get the blueprint for from Homestead, if I remember correctly. I might have to put a correction in there because I don't entirely remember. But you can get the blueprint and then craft both of these at the Forge NPC. And so this one doesn't give direct +2 to Fire Strike itself, but it gives a +2 to Explosive Strike, which is one of the connectors in here that gives me some more damage and AoE. So that's why I wanted that. And the set bonus is okay. The offensive and defensive ability is definitely always a nice thing. The energy regen I don't really feel too much. And then Elemental Force is interesting. It's like ice and fire damage, this big AoE that like goes around you, and the range on it isn't too bad. So I feel like it's actually been kind of helping me out a decent bit compared to some other things I've tried before. And then the third epic was this Solar Channeling Stone. So this is a direct purchase from a Homestead Quartermaster, and this gives a +2 to Fire Strike and a +2 to Bursting Rounds, which is my main damage coming out of the Inquisitor tree. So I thought that this was a perfect, addition compared to what I was using before. Stats on it aren't anything like super significant. Obviously, I'll probably be finding a replacement for this sometime, in Ultimate. But I thought it was pretty nice as a good piece of gear. It was level 40, so I wish I would have grabbed it sooner, but I didn't even know about it until I looked at all the Firestrike gear. And then the last major change that I made is I upgraded my Marauder's Talisman into the Mythic Plunderer's Talisman, which is basically the same thing, just with higher stats. All the effects and everything are the same. Interestingly, we went from, I think, just on the Marauder's Talisman, I think it just had either movement speed or attack speed. It was one of them. And then we went from that to total speed. And I believe total speed is just like, is everything. So like, okay, a Marauder's Talisman had attack speed. So I believe total speed is like attack, move, and cast speed. If there is anything else in there, I'm not entirely sure, but we got I think we got a decent amount of value out of that. I think that's pretty cool. And then so that's basically it for gear additions. Obviously I had to put some augments on my gear. Most of these are from the Black Legion because I was like desperately needing Aether resistance, so I just spammed a bunch of those augments on my gear. My chaos resistance is pretty good now too. Some of my gear isn't augmented. I put Solar Radiance, which is a Homestead augment, on my guns here for some more damage, and that increased my damage a decent bit. But yeah, aside from that, there are 2 legendaries that are I would get in Ultimate that I'm very interested in. Well, I guess there's technically 4. So one of them is the Dagalin's Face Guard. I'll put a little card up of it on screen. So this is a helmet that you can get a blueprint for and then craft, and it's a part of a set that I think is I'm gonna pull it off my other screen here. I think the Dagalin's Destruction set, and it kind of has some direct synergy with like a fire and lightning style build for Firestrike. I think it's made for this type of build that I'm doing, between like for a purifier like Demolitionist and Inquisitor, because it has bonuses for Firestrike and Deadly Aim and conversions from physical to fire and lightning, and stuff like that. It has a +3 to Bursting Round, Storm Spread, and Firestrike. So yeah, the helmet itself is craftable. The blueprint is not target farmable as far as I could tell. So the blueprint will be a random drop, and then eventually I can craft the headpiece. And then the other pieces of gear I'll have to find, although one of them I already have. So let me, I don't have it in here right now. Hold on. All right, so one of the pieces of set gear is this gun, De Gallen's Annihilator, um, which gives a bunch of base lightning damage and lightning and fire damage and stuff. Um, Gives +3 to storm spread and explosive strike, which is again this on Firestrike here. And then the other gun, I don't remember what it's called. It's something similar. Oh, it's De Gallen's Destroyer. That one gives +3 to bursting round and static strike. So yeah, I mean, very clear synergy with what I'm doing for this build. So that will probably be a set. Again, can't really target farm it, unfortunately, but that'll probably be a set that I look to try out if I manage to get all the pieces for it. And then the other piece of gear that I'm interested in is a belt called the Cinder Plate Girdle. So it has some base fire damage, some percent fire damage, pierce converted to fire, and then some other stats, +2 to fire strike, and then I think some +2 and 3s for some spells for other classes. And then it has a magma orb chance on attack effect on it. And it seemed interesting just for at least the additional plus to fire strike. I don't know what the hard cap for this is, so it's entirely possible that I might, between all this gear, end up hitting it a bit too soon, but we'll see. That belt also has a blueprint, so eventually I'll be able to craft it, but the blueprint is not target farmable again, so it'll be a random drop I get from somewhere, and then eventually I can craft the belt and try it out. So I figured to end the video out, I would just kind of pick a zone and run around through it, just showing off, some of the damage and how my build kind of performs at this point, whilst I talk about like some of the goals for the character. So at this point, we have a decent amount of the gear figured out right now. So that's not an immediate concern anymore. I think at least for the end of Elite, my survivability and my damage has gotten a lot better. I was testing on a training dummy earlier, and I was doing, averaging like 170,000 DPS, which I mean is a training dummy, so it's not really indicative of actual combat, of course, but I think that says a lot for how far my damage has come, because before when I did this video last time, I think, I don't think I'd broken 100,000 yet. So yeah, we've come a decent way, getting upgrades for the character and the gear and everything. And again, so my short-term goals here, of course, is to beat the campaign on Ultimate, get to level 100. There are some quests, I believe, that I can do for extra skill points only in Ultimate. If any of you are familiar about the hidden path quests that you can do, I have done those on normal and elite for the extra skill points. So I have 2 extra skill points from those that I've put into my character already. And I briefly remember seeing online that there were a few other things I could do in Ultimate for skill points. So I'll definitely be taking advantage of those if I can. And then probably one of the last things that I'm kind of concerned about is kind of combing over my devotion tree again and trying to see if I can make it better, because right now it feels like it's working out okay. I'm sure it could be a lot better. I'd like to try and optimize it a bit if I could, because it feels like I'm just kind of putting random points in there. It doesn't really feel like I'm doing it with a lot of intention, if that makes sense. So I'd like to kind of revise it and see if I can make it, help me out a little bit better. Alright, so you may notice things are a little bit different. I am in Ultimate now. I had to re-record the outro for this video, But basically, I think I'd finished showcasing everything that I needed to for the character for now. I think the next update that I make will be once I have completed the campaign on Ultimate. So hopefully you guys will look forward to that. And thanks everyone for watching. I will be back soon.